Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel again, thanks for tuning in. In this video I want to talk about locating your emotions. And there is this technique and it's called emotional body mapping. And I found out about it like a long time ago. I was actually doing it subconsciously, unconsciously before I actually found out it's actually like a tool or a technique that people use. And it's very interesting. I'll put a link to the scientific research that has been done on these techniques so you can read up on it. And it's a very useful tool to learn to label your emotions, to learn to attach specific categories of feelings, to make a distinction between different emotions, and to really learn to know what you're feeling. Basically get more familiar with what you're feeling, because many of us, we're very unaware of what we are feeling and when we are feeling it, right? Like we might have this uncomfortable, restless feeling, but we don't really know what is actually going on. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of labeling stuff, right? But becoming aware of your emotions and putting a label to them, even if it's like massively or drastically oversimplified, right? Putting one word on a vastly complex feeling you're experiencing, it's still useful, especially when you are communicating with other people, because when you can describe what you're feeling, when you can put a label or a name to the emotions or the feelings you're experiencing, it's a lot easier for them to relate and to know what's going on. Because most people, they read body language or they read facial expressions, and maybe you're super angry but you're smiling to hide the anger, kind of, and you don't really know maybe that you're angry, but this is like a subconscious behavior you taught yourself because you feel like anger is not alright, anger is not okay, and you try to hide it with a smile, but you're not really aware that you're actually angry, and it causes a whole lot of confusion, and it makes it more difficult to relate to other people and to yourself. Because I believe that when we are able to label our emotions easily without having to spend a lot of time figuring out what's going on, because it's actually a skill, right? You practice it, you become better at it, and you will notice that it will be easier for you to know what is actually going on inside you. You will know, okay, I feel angry, or this is what anger feels like, or this is what sadness feels like, right? And I believe it's very, very helpful to learn to become more aware, to increase your emotional awareness. This is, I believe, a key component of being able to communicate effectively with other people. So, emotional body mapping, what is it actually? Well, basically they've done a study on the emotional perception of people whenever they are experiencing an intense emotion. So they mapped the activity of their overall body, and they kind of like mapped it with temperature scales. So for example, they did surveys and people needed to fill in those surveys, and they were answering questions about the emotions they were experiencing and the feelings the somatic experiences they were having in their bodies. And so they came up with kind of a map of the way that emotions kind of feel like in the body, right? So for example, anger usually is more an upper body focused emotion. People report having feelings of anger when they are feeling more activity in their head, in their upper body, right? Fear is usually more located here, somewhere around here, in your stomach, around your heart, right? Happiness, joy, is usually you feel your whole body vibrating, you feel a sense of peace, fulfillment throughout your whole body. Sadness, usually people feel cold and heavy legs, and they feel this kind of like tensed up feeling inside their chest, right? So there's different like blueprints for different emotions, and these can of course vary differently between different people, right? Not everybody experiences anger as an upper body activated state, right? But most people do, and you will learn to by paying attention, by becoming aware of your body whenever you're feeling an intense emotion, that you will see that you will almost always feel the same feeling inside your body that is tied to a specific emotion, right? So it goes both ways. You can figure out what you're feeling by paying attention to your body, or you can also know that, okay, hey, now I'll feel angry, let me pay attention to what it feels like in my body, right? And this way you can strengthen both sides of the same coin, you know? You can learn to feel the emotion better inside your body, and you can learn to know better what a specific feeling inside your body means as an emotion, right? So the way you want to go about this is it's usually the easiest if you are in an aroused state, if you are feeling a stronger emotion than usually, right? You wanna take out some time to go somewhere, sit down and relax, and really try to feel your whole body, like do like some sort of a body scan, okay? Try to put your attention on your body and really try to get a flavor, a sense, a taste of the feeling that you're experiencing. Try to find the feeling taste of what you're experiencing in this very moment. So pay attention. Does it feel tense? Does it feel warm, cold? Does it sting? Is it more like a cloud? Is it more, what color does it have? Is it blue? Is it yellow? Is it more like fleshy colors? Is it more like pastel colors? Is it more like colorless? Does it feel like, does it come in waves? Is it like very intense and then all of a sudden it kind of disappears and comes back? Like all these different qualities, you want to try to pay attention to what's going on inside your body. And in the beginning, it's a little bit, it feels weird. It feels weird because you're not used to doing this. Like it's like, what am I doing? It's like awkward, or I don't really know how to go about this, or I feel like I'm doing this wrong. And it's normal, it's perfectly normal that you're having these feelings. I had them too when I first started doing this. I think I kind of learned it in some kind of therapy session with a therapist I went to. But at first you're kind of like judging yourself because like, am I doing this right? If I label, like, I'm not sure what it kind of feels like. So maybe if I say it stings, it actually doesn't really sting, and maybe I'm wrong. Like, try to drop the script, try to drop the judgment, all right? There is no right or wrong. It's just about the feeling. Like, try to not judge yourself. Just be open, be curious, be open-minded, and be ready to receive the input that your body is giving you, right? So you really wanna just pay close attention and calm yourself down, all right? Before you start, breathe in, breathe out. Take some time to relax, to come into the now, into the present moment. Like, put your attention, your focus really on your body, and then drop the judgment. Just scan it and really feel it. What does it feel like? And it's difficult in the beginning. Like, it's very strange because at first I was like, I don't really know how to do this. It's weird. It's the first time I ever was inspired to pay attention to these things, right? And so it's weird. Like, it feels strange, and it's perfectly normal. It will feel strange, and just realize that this is normal, that you feel like this, and you want to just push through. You want to continue doing what you're doing and really feel it, all right? Does it sting? Is it tense? Where do I feel it? Do I feel it in my heart area? Is it more in my belly? Is it more in my head? And how does it change over time, right? And you will find that there will be this voice inside your head, oh no, this is not right, or this feels weird, stop what you're doing. Try to not pay too much attention to that voice and just continue what you're doing. And then you will find that you will start to realize, okay, this starts to feel interesting. Try to look at it from a curious perspective. Try to be interested in what your body is telling you. And by paying attention, by being interested in your body, it will show you what it has to say, right? And so you wanna practice this, because at first it's weird and strange and you don't really know how to do this, but by practicing with time, you will become better at this. And you will start to see patterns, and you will start to notice, okay, for me, example, when I feel sad or when I miss someone, it's like this tense feeling in my chest, and my limbs, they feel very heavy, and it's difficult to move. And when I sit on the couch, I feel like very, like as if I'm sinking into the couch almost, right? Anger, it's for me, it's a very upper body experience, you know, like my shoulders, they get tense, my arms, I want to, like, you know, break something, and it's all in my head, and it feels like it's like cooking here, you know, like steam and everything, you know, like the cartoons where the steam is coming out of their eyes and their ears, and it's kind of like there is ways that people experience emotions, and they have been described in comics and in poetry and in books, and like, you know, these descriptions, they kind of make sense. They're like somatic expressions of a feeling that we are experiencing, right? And so there is something to this emotional body mapping, because many people, the emotions, they cause sensations in the body, and the other way around. Like sometimes you have a feeling that is present in your body and you don't really know why it is there or what it actually is, and then it causes you to feel anxious or to feel agitated or to feel uncomfortable or restless, and it's simply because there is a certain feeling inside your body that you don't really know how to deal with, or you don't really know how to look at, right? So finding the feeling flavor of your current state, of your current emotion, is very, very key to then understanding what it is that you're feeling. And then something that I also did, I will also put a link in the description, a list of feelings and emotions, and just read through the list. There will be, like, I believe that increasing your emotional vocabulary, it allows you to communicate with yourself and others in a more nuanced way. It's more descriptive, it's more subtle, it's more precise, right? It's more rich. And so by increasing your emotional vocabulary, by increasing the amount of words you can describe the feelings you're experiencing with, the easier it will be to know what's going on inside you, and the easier it will be to communicate your internal state to someone else. Because if you say, I feel angry, the reason why I say I feel angry and not I am angry is because it allows you to distance yourself a little bit from the emotion. I talked about it in another video, but I will shortly recap it here. If you say I am angry, then you self-identify with the anger. Then you are the anger, which means subconsciously that you have to act out the anger, because you actually are the anger, right? But by saying I feel angry, you distance yourself from the emotion and you create space, and then you can decide whether you want to act on this anger or not. But I made another video on that topic, the power of words, I believe. You can watch it if you're interested in that. It's a very useful set of frames you can use for yourself and others. Anyways, so where was I? So yes, your emotional vocabulary, by enlarging your emotional vocabulary, you can better describe and communicate what you're feeling to yourself and to others. And I believe this is important if you want to be an effective communicator, and if you want to learn how to deal with your own emotions, if you want to learn how to master yourself. Self-mastery, emotional mastery, these things require awareness, and they also require a way to put them into words, to channel them, you know, because you're channeling your attention, your focus into a stream of words that then can be perceived by others and by yourself, which allows the information to be processed more effectively. All right, so you can look up a list of descriptive words that describe emotions, and even sometimes read the definitions, read what those words mean, and then you can start to relate different feelings to different words, and you can learn to label your emotions like even more precisely, right? Because there is a difference between excitement and surprise, or like I cannot really think of like a subtle difference between maybe anxiety and I cannot think of like a good comparison. But you will see that by reading through this list, you will find that, oh wow, I never thought of this feeling or this way to say what I'm feeling, right? And it can give you some clarity. You can gain a lot of clarity by reading words that might describe the way that you're feeling, right? And it can be also very healing to understand that there are actually words that have been there for a long time that describe what you're kind of feeling. So usually a lot of people, they feel very alone with their feelings. They feel like they're the only one experiencing this, or they feel like they're the only one who are going through this, or nobody understands them. And I believe that the feeling that nobody understands you comes down to a lot of different factors, but a very important factor is your ability to communicate what you're feeling, right? I mean, if you can only describe your inner state with 5 words, then it's going to be very, very difficult for other people to understand you, So by increasing your emotional vocabulary, you will then be able to communicate more effectively what you're going through, and other people will understand you more easily. So I think it's critical to learn for yourself to know what you're feeling, to do some emotional labeling, to do the emotional body mapping, because then whenever a feeling arises, okay, this is what anger feels like to me, so I know now that I feel angry. And then you can tell the other person, hey, what you just said caused me to feel angry. Can we talk about this? Right? And then you can, you can increase your communication. You can improve your communication, and you will find that you will be more easily understood. And so the other factors that I was mentioning before, that I had in mind. So it's the way you communicate. It's the way if you actually do communicate, all right? Because a lot of people, they're too afraid of sharing what they're experiencing or what they're feeling, because it's a kind of a vulnerable position to find yourself in, right? If you're sharing that what the person did made you feel uncomfortable, well, then they might use that information to make you feel more uncomfortable, right? So it's a difficult thing to be vulnerable and to share what you're experiencing. So a second thing, it's not only being able to communicate it and having the emotional vocabulary, it's also the willingness and the courage to share what you're experiencing, right? Because if you don't share it, then of course nobody will understand what you're feeling, because you're not really talking about it. And then the third thing is the willingness of the other person to want to understand. And this is something that I sometimes struggle with, and it's something that I had to learn to accept. Some people are just not willing or not able to be empathizing with what you're feeling. Some people, they feel too uncomfortable, or it's too much of a mirror for their own suffering, or right, or they just don't want to spend time listening, whatever it is, right? Not everybody is willing to listen or to relate or to try to understand you, and that's okay. It's perfectly their right. It's in their right. It's not their responsibility, right? So I had to learn to accept that not everybody wants to listen, and not everybody wants to try to understand you, and that's all right, right? It hurts when you want that person to listen to you or to try to understand you, but it's in the end, it's their choice, and it's not, you don't really have control over that, right? So you want to detach yourself from the expectation, kind of, and learn that you yourself should be able to understand yourself first, right? Because so many people, they don't understand themselves. They don't know what's going on inside themselves. They don't know what's going on, what they're feeling, what is happening, right? What the thoughts are telling them. They are not aware. They're very unaware. And I was probably also at some point, like growing up, I felt drawn to wanting to learn more about my inner workings and my inner world. So I started a journey of inquiry, self-inquiry. So I learned a lot of things along the way, and I realized that in order to relate to others, you also need to be able to relate to yourself. And like I said, it's not their responsibility to deal with your problems. So you gotta learn for yourself. So a useful tool to do that, a useful tool in your toolbox of self-mastery and emotional awareness, increased emotional awareness, is the emotional body mapping, right? So again, I will shortly summarize what you want to do. So usually it's most easy when you feeling an intense emotion, right? You want to take time to be alone and sit down in a quiet room, nature, wherever, or your room, some alone time where nobody really interrupts or disturbs you, right? I know it's difficult when you're in an argument or conversation with someone and you all of a sudden feel an intense emotion. Then it's usually quite difficult to just remove yourself from the situation, right? So when you're practicing this, first maybe start whenever you, I don't know, receive a text message of someone and it upsets you, or you know, like reading a news article, whatever it is, when you kind of can remove yourself from the situation easily and be alone, right? And if not, you can then try to, maybe when you find yourself in a situation where you're talking with someone and it upsets you, just wait until the interaction is over, and then when you're home, try to reflect a little bit on what happened and try to feel your emotions, scan your body up and down, your head, your chest, really get the taste, the feeling taste. It's an interesting concept, the taste of the feeling, and try to like, and you can practice this also when, for example, you're eating food, right? Just try to taste the food, be mindful about the food. What is the texture, the smell, you know, how much does it weigh, the interaction between the fork and the food and in your mouth, and try to like make it a mindful activity. And increasing the mindfulness while eating, for example, will also increase the mindfulness in your own body. You will learn to pay attention to these small sensations, and that will cause you to more easily detect which emotion or which feeling you're experiencing. So I actually downloaded, let me see, I actually downloaded a chart of the emotional body mapping, like with a few emotions, just how they look like, and I wish I could show it on the screen, but I will just talk about it. So anger usually is located in the upper body, right? You will feel your head, your arms. I told about it, my shoulders are tense, I wanna like break something, right? Fear is more here in the trunk, in the belly area. It's like more spread out and a little bit lower. Disgust is more located here in the throat, right? If you feel disgusted, usually it's because of something that if you would eat it would sicken you, right? Or if you would inhale it would sicken you. So it's usually like located here. Then sadness is also a tenser feeling in the chest, heavy legs, cold, they feel colder, right? Then surprise, also more upper body. It's more, you know, air. Wow, the surprise, it's more in your head. You don't really feel that much in your body. Otherwise, only it's more this area, right? Then you have the anxiety, also very much in the stomach. It's very active there, because the anxiety, it kind of like tries to collapse you, and you feel very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. You can also start to feel nauseous, or like you have to throw up. So these feelings, they usually locate here inside your trunk. Then love, of course, it's a very bodily experience. You feel it in your loins, you feel it, you know, you feel it all over your body. It's a very high vibrational state to be in. So this is, usually people know when they're in love. They just know it, like their thoughts and their body feels like they're flying, right? Depression, super cold everywhere. Your limbs feel heavy, you feel unmotivated, it's difficult to move, your whole body feels cold, you know, like it's not alive. There is a lack of liveness inside your body, and depression really feels like that. So then you have pride, shame, and envy. I will not really mention what they look like. You can check out the charts in the description, and you will hopefully learn to locate these feelings inside your own body, because it might differ, right? They did studies on large quantities of people, but however, it's just the means, right? It's just the average, because people can differ drastically between the two extremes. So it's a way for you to look inside yourself, to experience what you're experiencing, and paying closer attention, raising your awareness, because this is the first step. If you learn to be more aware, there is so many doors that open, right? Because then you can learn more about this feeling, you can label it, you can communicate it more effectively, you can distance yourself from it, you can realize that it's probably just an illusion, you can decide if it's a good thought or a bad thought, right? Because the feelings usually go hand in hand with the thoughts. A thought can create a feeling, or a feeling can create a thought. They often go hand in hand. Well, they almost go hand in hand, but it's usually very difficult, or it's sometimes very difficult to know which one came first, and it's not necessarily that important. What is important though is the awareness that's going on. The awareness that you're having thoughts that are not very useful or not very helpful, they're not serving you. The awareness that the feeling is there and that it's okay to feel that feeling. I made a video about validating your own emotions. I highly recommend you check it out after you watch this one. Validating your own emotions is key. So increasing the awareness, learning how to label your emotions, increasing your emotional vocabulary, these things will all cause you to become a better communicator towards yourself and towards other people. And this will, in the end, lead to a more fulfilling and happy life, I believe, because my personal opinion is that our relationships are the most important source of purpose, value, happiness, and joy in our lives. Like, having good relationships is important at any time in our lives. When we grow up, when we are in midlife crisis, when we are about to die, our relationships with ourselves and others are the most important thing for our sense of self and for our happiness, right? So on that note, I want to thank you for watching. So thank you for being brave. Thank you for looking inwards. Thank you for making yourself and the planet a better place one step at a time. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. Talk soon. Bye.